How will the individual pitchers for the Miami Marlins this season fare? Are they going to have success or are they going to flame out? We're going to review them and preview their 2026 right now.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the Marlins for the last 4 seasons. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow wherever you get your podcasts. And joining me on today's show is the one and only Dave Hunt. Dave, welcome into the program.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me again. Always enjoy being on with you.
Super excited for this one. We have plenty coming your way in today's show. First off, we're going to talk about the pitchers in the rotation, preview their season. Are they going to be successful? Are they going to flame out? We're going to talk about overhyped players, maybe in spring training, that once Grapefruit League comes to an end or even begins, we start to realize maybe the fan base put a little too much emphasis on a couple of these players or prospects. And then who's on their last chance with the Marlins at the big league level or even at the minor league level. So jam-packed show. We're going to start, though, by talking about the rotation. And I think, Dave, I think we have a clear idea of a few players or pitchers who are going to be locked into the rotation. We have Eury, we have Sandy. I think you can pencil in Jansen Junk into the rotation, especially with the departure of Weathers and Cabrera. The other two are a little bit of a mystery, I would say. I don't think we know specifics yet. I think we got to wait for spring training to play out. But let me know your thoughts right now about the rotation as it stands, as it's constructed. Who would be your top 5 first before we move on to projections?
I think you've mentioned the obvious ones there. Sandy, we're all hoping he's still going to be here on opening day, and I'm getting to the stage where I think he will be, almost certainly. Eury, for me, that's one of the big ones I want to talk about because I think his year is a big year this year. Jansen Junk, agreed with. And then where do we go from there? Is Braxton Garrett in a position where he's healthy and good to go? What about all the prospects we've got? I am a big lover of Robby Snelling.
Oh yeah,
you know that I've spoken about him big time. Thomas White, is he on that sudden trajectory to sudden MLB stardom? So it's big for me. But the reason I wanted to discuss the pitchers was for me, Eury. I want to see a healthy Eury throughout 2026 and what that looks like in 3-4 months' time. I've been saying all throughout last year that he would start to flame out towards the end of the season. And I think we did see that he suffered that big drop off for a while. And coming into 2026, what I want to see is how long can he go? Is he going to need to have short rests now and again just to get him back into a full season? Or are we going to see a full season of top level Eury, which is what I'm hoping for? We'll see.
I think Eury has the potential to have a true breakout season. And I don't mean that he hasn't had good years or shown signs of success, because I think the consensus around baseball and prospect rankings, people that know the game, I should say, they knew how hyped Eury Perez was as a prospect. They know what a generational talent he is. The majority of baseball fans, though, have yet to see that at a national level, on the national stage. It's more of Marlins fans and really, intrinsic ball knowers who pay attention to the game. I think a successful 2026 season for Eury has to incorporate a couple of things. Number one, he's got to stay healthy. You have to pitch at least 28, 31 games, something like that. Have a full workload. Upwards, I would like to see him throw 180 innings. That's a lot, but that's what you want out of your workhorse, out of a pitcher that you expect to be a Cy Young contender for years to come. And if he does so, you mentioned last season fading down the stretch, and he did. It just seemed like he got gassed right at the end. And I think it's important for him to finish strong, whatever that means, whether the Marlins are in contention or they're not in contention, avoiding the injured list and then finishing on a high note. That's going to be huge for Eury. Robby Snelling, that's the wild card in the sense of, does he start the year in the rotation? Because I think with these trades, there's a real chance he does. And I would argue he should. It just depends on what the organization does. But if he does, if Snelling realizes his potential as a prospect, the Marlins got another step. They have another frontline starter.
And when we look at Robby Snelling and when he first came to the organization, I think a lot of Marlins fans probably didn't realize what we potentially had on our hands. You heard people say at the time that trade sucks. Well, it doesn't, does it? And we know that now. And I think a lot of people were guilty of saying that. We've got here potentially a real top level. And I've been banging on about Snelling since weeks after he arrived, because I watched him and I thought, this guy's actually got something. And I agree. I do think he should be in contention for starting the season. Let's see how spring training goes, obviously. But if we could see a young Robby Snelling taking to the mound within the first week of the MLB season, I tell you what, I'd have a smile on my face, because I really, really think he could bring something to the table. But what would success look like for him? Would success be an instant breakout season where we see, this fireball on the mound, or would it be just consistent level pitching? And for me, I think it's more that. I want to see consistency from him, and I'd like to see what he does over a 6-month period, so we've got a real sample of what that guy can do.
I agree. I don't think Snelling would come in and dominate Major League Baseball. It's a difficult sport. You're going from AAA to the major leagues, but consistent success where you're pitching 5 or 6 innings at a time. You're not getting these blow up outings where you just can't get outs. The command for me is huge, because if Snelling can start his major league career commanding the strike zone, I think that's going to pay huge dividends for the future. I don't need to see him have a 2.5 ERA in his first year. Even if he's like a low 4s kind of guy, a high 3s, I will take that all day long, because it's about growth. And he's a young pitcher. Pitching is an art. There's so much to learn from it. The Marlins organization is one of the best at developing pitchers. So I think you could see there be bumps along the road, but just as long as we see that talent come through, and you see a couple of games where he's dialed in, and then that translates into consistent success. That's what the Marlins will be hoping for, because at the end of the day, when I look at 2027, we might not have a season, but a couple years down the road, Robby Snelling, Eury Perez, Thomas White, that's a top 3 rotation in baseball. I mean, if everything works to plan, and that's certainly what the Marlins are hoping for. The last pitcher I wanted to kind of project is Max Meyer, because for me, Dave, I look at a pitcher like Max Meyer, and I think I'm going to mention him later on in the last chance segment.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
Success for him, it's just got to be better than what we've seen. Like, I see Meyer as a bullpen arm. I don't think the Marlins view him as a bullpen arm. I think we're going to see him in the rotation. It just has to get better. It can't get worse.
It does. And what frustrates me so much about Max Meyer is you'll see the odd game, and I'm trying to think of the one in particular I'm thinking about.
Against the Reds?
The Reds, that's the one.
Yeah.
I was going to say the Cubs, but you're right. It's where you see this player and you think, what's going on here? Where's this guy? Do you know? Because we then see 4 or 5 consistent games of very different play, and what you want to see is that just consistency. I've said it so many times already. We've only been going 9 minutes. I've said consistency 5 times, but that's what you want from a long-term rotation guy. And I agree with you. I see Max as a bullpen arm, and I hope we're wrong, because there's been so many years now of Max Meyer's the future, and bit by bit, all these other guys we're talking about are overtaking him. And I agree that he might need to be talked about in that last segment, because I think we are getting to that stage with him where, come on, Max, let's see that consistency, that guy we know is in there somewhere, that you don't want to seem to let out on a day-by-day basis. And I agree that he's an important one to talk about, because I do think he'll start the season as part of the rotation. I do. I see him as number 5 in that rotation. Come on, Max. Give us what we know you've got.
Yeah, it's going to be huge for him to start off the season on the right foot. Much like the entire Marlins team, I think it's important to start off the season on the right foot and not fall far behind in the standings. Too many years we see the Marlins start off 10 games, 8 games under 500, and they're climbing out of this hole. And that's something they have to try to avoid this year, especially in the NL East, which seemingly just gets better and better every single day. Freddie Peralta joins the Mets. You have Bo Bichette. It keeps going. But coming up next, we're going to talk about some individual players for the Marlins that might be overhyped heading into spring training. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. And guys, I'm not going to lie, I use TurboTax every single year because I am not a finance guy. I don't know taxes. I hardly know what a W-2 form is, but I use TurboTax. It's easy. They streamline the process. The instructions are super clear. You can upload your documents very quickly. It takes under an hour. Go about your day. Get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a time saver, and it gives you real peace of mind because you know that the tax professionals are handling your business. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. All in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. So that's coming up, guys. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. And real quick, I wanted to talk about the Everydayer Club. So the Everydayer Club is something that the network is putting on. $5 a month, $50 a year. We have a group chat over on Discord. You can sign up, talk Marlins baseball all off season into spring training. It's going to be a real fun time. So I encourage you to check that out. The link is down in the show notes. Now, Dave, we're going to talk about some overhyped players for the Marlins. And this is something where, as Marlins fans, I think it's hard to put it into words, but every year we create a narrative like this could be the year we could compete. We have hope. And I think sometimes we boost the ego of some players that probably aren't worthy of being considered some franchise cornerstone, but we have such high expectations for them that we might take their success in the minor leagues or major leagues out of context. So the floor is yours. Is there a player in mind where you think the Marlins fans might be overhyping just a tad?
Yeah, and it's probably one you may expect me to say, but others may not. And that's this return and the sudden breakout of Connor Norby. Because I'm seeing a lot of, is this his Stowers year? And I don't like that terminology for Connor, because I think he came in with Kyle Stowers, and there was the impression by a lot that Connor Norby was the better of the two. Stowers goes on to have this breakout season, and Connor spends a lot of the season injured. And I'm seeing more and more of this talk that will be his year, this will be his year, this is his Stowers year. And I just fear for him that by that overhype, he'll be putting too much pressure on himself, as well as the fan base putting pressure on him. And for me, I just think Marlins fans need to be careful of tipping what could be a fantastic player over the long term into the too much pressure category. I don't know what you think on that one. Am I picking out the wrong player there for you, or?
No, I think Norby's a perfect example of that, because if I go back, Dave, to 2024, end of 2024, heading into that 2025 season, I was right there with you. I was right there with everybody. I thought Norby was the real deal. I got carried away in the fact where that second half, he had a really good stretch. He was hitting a lot of doubles, a lot of home runs. And I was like, the Marlins found their next face of the franchise. They found a guy that's going to be an all-star contender, an everyday player, surely. And that wasn't remotely close to the case. It just didn't happen. And I think I overlooked some serious flaws in Norby's game. And that was just Marlins pure fan blindness. I think the whiff rate and the swing decisions from Norby I overlooked because he was still hitting doubles. He was still hitting homers. He was an exciting player. I ignored the defense because I didn't want to put too much emphasis on that. And then you see 2025, Stowers has success. Augustine Ramirez has success. They call up a guy named Graham Pauley, who's an absolute wizard at third base, Norby's position. And all of a sudden, you're looking into 2026. Norby isn't the main guy anymore. So I think you have him as a bit overhyped and also last chance contention in terms of, can you be the face of the franchise type player? I have my doubts about that. There is a player I'm going to say, and this is going to take, I want everybody to just hold on because you're going to say, whoa, where are you going with this?
I think I know where you're going to go, so let's hear it.
This is going to be a surprise to a lot of people, and that's Joe Mack.
I think Joe Mack. I really wrote it down so I could hold it up.
Look, guys, I love Joe Mack. I think he's a great prospect. Is he the franchise catcher yet? I don't know. And two things can be true at once. He's an exciting prospect. He's one of the best offensive prospects in the Marlins system, but also there's some work to be done in his offensive game. Elite defensively, no doubt about that. Look, guys, the Marlins had Jeff Mathis for years. Jeff Mathis was elite defensively. Couldn't hit. You have to be able to hit at the major league level in order to be a top 10 catcher in baseball, which so many people think Mac's going to be this franchise catcher, this generational talent. He has a lot of power. He hits the ball hard. I love that. The issue with Mac is he chases a lot and he swings and misses a lot. And you go back to last season at AAA, he was chasing 30% of the time. He was whiffing 32% of the time. Who does that remind me of? Connor Norby. A lot of whiff, a lot of swing and miss, bad plate discipline that needs to improve. Zone contact rate, really low. It was sub 80, 78% zone contact rate. So you take that at the AAA level and you remember that the major leagues is a whole different ballgame. Better pitches, better pitching staffs, bullpens. All these guys are going to be throwing 95 and above when you get to the later innings. There's a chance that Mac struggles at first. And there's going to be a lot of fans that immediately say Mac is a bust. Mac isn't panning out. I encourage you to take it slow and realize that he's also a catcher who's juggling two really demanding duties, focusing on hitting, but also focusing on handling a pitching staff. And we saw that with Augustine last year. When Augustine was catching, he couldn't hit. He only hit while he was the designated hitter. Mm-hmm. So for the expectations being put on Mac to be the franchise catcher, I think we should scale it back a little bit and just wait and see how he does in spring training, give him a couple months or two or three, even the first half of the season to settle in, because the power is there. The defense is there. It's that hit tool that I think needs a little bit of work.
And it's funny, isn't it? We talk about Augustine Ramirez, and a lot of people say it's all about the power with him, and he's
right.
Defensive work's what needs the honing. It's the other way around with Mac, like you say, and you almost wish you could just smash the two guys together and create this monster catcher. But what I want to pick up on what you've said there is we as baseball fans, every single year, and I'm not just talking Marlins fans, I'm talking baseball fans, expect guys to step up from AAA into the big leagues and just instantly have that. And year after year after year, we expect it. And year after year after year, when it doesn't happen for the majority of players, we act confused because there's that odd guy, and I'm talking your Jacob Marcy here,
right,
who does step up and suddenly is just this phenom that's come out of nowhere, maybe even upped their game from AAA. But will Matt fall into that category of we just expect him to be incredible from moment one? Like you say, temper those expectations. I think there's a long-term player in Joe Mack, but what you don't want to do is do what we said about Connor Norby and put that pressure on the player from moment one, because the fans are saying the wrong thing. So I agree with you. Give the guy time. Let's see what he's doing by the All-Star break, and hopefully we will see a future Marlins franchise catcher.
And what I'm curious about too is how will they handle the catching situation? This is something that I've really avoided talking about the last few weeks because I frankly don't know. I don't understand their plan. You have Liam Hicks, Joe Mack, who's ready and who will debut either out of opening day or a month or two into the season. It's not going to be long. And then you have Augustin Ramirez, who you're publicly saying is a catcher, and he's working on his catching. It's like the social media team, Clayton McCullough, Augustine believes he's working super hard to be a catcher. I admire that. That's great. But I also trust my eyes watching the game, and he's not a good catcher. He's not serviceable. He was costing this team games. Unless something changes, you're going to be losing games because of Augustine's defense at some point. Something has to improve. And then you have Liam Hicks, who's played first base, but he's 5'9". That he's too short to play the position, and he's okay defensively, not great. You don't usually carry three catchers. It just baffles me. I don't know what the plan is. That's something I'm curious to see play out in spring training. Really quick before we move to the next segment, do you have any thoughts on the three catcher conundrum?
I'm in the same position as you. I don't have a clue because, like you say, I think the Marlins wanted to be Augustin Ramirez for at least 2026. Are they going to put him at first base at some point? Because there's always been that question about giving him a go at first base. But now we've got Morel in. I don't know. No, to answer your question, I haven't got a clue where they're going to go with this. I think through spring training, you'll see all three of them in a cycle. And let's see who wins and what the opening day catcher looks like.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about some players that might be on their last chance with the Fish. Do they have what it takes to get it done in 2026, or will this fan base and will this team eventually move off of them? Shout out to all the everyday listeners out there. If you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Last Chance U. It was a show on Netflix, junior college football players who, football players who started their career off on the wrong foot. They go to a junior college. It's their last chance because, they're trying to make their ultimate goal of playing elite college football in the NFL. And I wanted to incorporate that into this segment because I think with the Marlins, there's some players and pitchers who are on their last chance, where this is it. 2026 is a make or break year for them. And I'm going to start by talking about a pitcher. And it's not really fair to him. It's just circumstance and injury. And that's Braxton Garrett. I think Braxton Garrett is on his last chance with the Fish. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's a pitcher who was part of the old regime of Marlins baseball. That 2023 season, you could argue Garrett was the ace. He pitched better than Sandy Alcantara. Eury Perez only started 11 games or 12 games that season. Garrett made 30 starts and was really good. Like 100, I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me, but it was north of 150 innings for sure. He started in the playoffs. He was a great pitcher. Boom, 2024 happens, something's off. The stuff just wasn't as sharp, and no surprise, he has an injury, goes down, misses the next year and a half. He's coming back completely healthy, but I say he's in the last chance tier because there's a world in which other players have passed him by, and he doesn't get that opportunity to showcase his stuff. Remember, Garrett doesn't throw hard. The Marlins love velocity. They love pitchers that throw hard. That's one of their organizational philosophies. Garrett's going to throw 90-mile-an-hour sinkers and use the curveball, use the slider to get a ton of ground balls, and he'll get some good swing and misses too. Uses a cutter. Does Garrett have another 25 starts in him this season, or is he, starting off the season in the minors? Is he someone that is just kind of overlooked and the Marlins start bringing in Snelling and White to take that rotation spot? What do you think?
Takes me back to 2024. Did he throw a Maddox in 24? Am I getting that right against the D-backs?
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. That was his best start.
It was. And again, we go back to this. We know there's somebody in there, and I remember that because I remember thinking, here we go. And like you say, and then all of a sudden we get another injury, and we get the, like you say, almost the passing of the guard. He was the old Marlins. How will Peter Bendick's Marlins take to Braxton Garrett being in there? I've been saying all the offseason that I do think we'll see him start the year in the rotation. But now you've just said, do we see him start in the minors? It does get me questioning where does his place within the organization sit? I think he's got 2 months maximum to convince Marlins fans that he is still part of this organization long term. And what I'd like to see is him having at least what we class as mid-tier games, throwing, like you say, his velocity isn't there. Where will we see him come back? Is he going to come back? It's a difficult one, and you've thrown me with that name because I thought you were going to go with a different pitcher. Yeah, I hope we see him start it because I would love to see Braxton Garrett come back. And I personally, if you said to me, Dave, name a pitcher that you would like to see have some success with the Marlins, his name would be on there. I feel like he's been in the background for so long. So yeah, he's in that last chance. You're right. What do you think? Would you like to see him back? Would you?
I'd love to see Garrett back because I think it really just comes down to, is his elbow cooked or not? If his arm's cooked, then you know he's gonna be a 5.5 ERA pitcher, be getting blown up with the soft velocity, the slider's not as sharp, the cutter's not cutting, and then he's gonna be so easy to hit because he relies upon command and his secondaries to survive, and that's what made him so good back in 2023. I thought he should have the inside track at a rotation spot just because of the track record of success. I don't think the 2023 season matters not one inkling to Peter Bendick. So I don't think he cares. I don't think it's not that he shouldn't care. It's that this is how you're trying to build your roster and get the best guys. And if Garrett shows weakness in spring training, his stuff isn't good enough anymore, they will have no hesitation in optioning him to AAA because he does have that one option year left. I mean, there was some talk about, Max Meyer a couple seasons ago when he got optioned and he finally came back up and then was still inconsistent. I don't think it's the same way because Garrett is older than Meyer. I think they would rather take Max Meyer and try to squeeze the juice out of him and all the potential they could and give him every opportunity they can over a Braxton Garrett. That's just how I feel at this point.
I think that comparison to the Max Meyer situation is really nice because I remember that. And I remember because didn't they option him like the day after he had a fantastic game on the mound? And everyone was like,
Peter Pratt was so mad.
Yeah. Well, I think I was on Locked On with Pete the day after. And I remember saying, but if he had an interview on the TV and he looked so sad, and I remember saying to Pete, but he looked really sad. Maybe he already knew,
right?
But like you say, the age is different, so we're talking a different thing altogether here. I appreciate the comparison, but age isn't on Braxton's side, and I wonder where his career goes if he doesn't make a success of it this year. Does he end up being given a chance on another team, or do we see him as sort of a mid-relief guy? I don't know what will happen to his career if he doesn't have a good first half of 2026. That's where I sit on him.
Let's go to your overhyped player, or not overhyped, last chance player. Did you have one in mind?
I am. I'm going to go with the other name we've mentioned there.
It's
Max Meyer, just for the simple reason being, I know we've discussed him heavily on today's show already, but for me, he is really at that point now where Marlins fans and the organization has been putting so much into Max for the last 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're at a point where, I said it earlier, Max, come on, show us what you got, because we know you're in there, we know you've got it, but we just need to see it over a long-term period. And we don't want to see that guy that has one absolute world-changing game followed by 4 games where we're sitting sucking our thumbs going, why?
Right.
So for me, we talk about where Braxton Garrett's career is going to go. Where's Max's career going to go? Because if he doesn't have a consistent year on the mound from the off, I really think it's going to be time for him to start considering, is he a pen arm, and does he start honing his game to that? So for me, it's can he be a starter, or do we as the Marlins need to look to put him back in the pen before he ends up going elsewhere and coming back to haunt us in 5 years from the pen?
And I think he'd be such a valuable bullpen addition. That's what I mean. His stuff is crafted for the bullpen. It was crafted for the bullpen back in college when he was at Minnesota. He had the 98-mile-an-hour fastball that was touching 100 with the slider that was the best in that draft class. That screams bullpen. The Marlins at the time said, we're going to take a chance on him with the 3rd overall pick and try to make him or solidify him as a starter if he could develop that 3rd pitch. And then last offseason, you hear, well, he's added a sinker. He added another pitch. Well, I'm blanking here because he had the fastball, always tried to throw the change, a sinker and a slurve. I think it was a slurve. It was another breaking ball.
Yeah.
He didn't throw it. He never threw it. It was still
that's why you don't remember
Max Meyer. Slider 60% of the time, and then you'll mix in a fastball. So it's the same philosophy. And if he wants to be a starter, this is it. This is absolutely it. Because if not, I would love to see Meyer, not the Marlins, move on from him, but move on from the idea that he's going to be in the rotation and put him in the bullpen. I think it's simple.
Yeah. And I agree. And like I say, I really think we're at that stage because I really don't want to see Max Meyer go elsewhere after all the work that the Marlins put into him and come back in a few years' time and be throwing from the pen for the Reds or something, or the Braves. and us go, remember that time we said they should have put him in the pen?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that would be such the epitome of the Marlins, you know?
Yeah, it really would. Yeah, he becomes the Braves all-star closer.
Oh man, it's I can't wait, guys. Like, I really cannot wait for baseball season. I think when football season ended or college season ended, that was step one. We have the NFL conference championship, so excited for that. But I feel it. I feel the air getting warmer. I'm excited. It's going to be here before we know it. So, Dave, it's always a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Always good to be here with you.
Absolutely. And for all the everyday listeners out there, consider the Everydayer Club, link down in the show notes. If you're new, subscribe, like the show. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on. And as always, let's go fish.